Hi, I'm Shelley.
And I'm Kate, and you're listening to One Lump or Two,
The boldest breast cancer podcast yet.
Join us each week as we offer an intimate glimpse into the challenges, triumphs, and unexpected levity of facing breast cancer head on in our 30s.
Now, let's pull back the curtain and dive on in. Hello.
Hi.
How you doing?
I'm alright, thank you. How are you?
Not too bad, thanks. I've just come back from the pharmacy.
Oh, one of our favourite places.
Oh, I'm there every month. And actually, the woman behind the desk doesn't even recognise me, and I'm there every single month. Anyway, I went to go and collect all of my drugs, obviously.
Yeah.
And there's a picture of us, the poster, of One Lump or Two, on the counter. And I kind of pointed at it and I said, oh, thanks for putting our poster up. And she looked a bit confused, and then I said, oh, it's me, like, I've had breast cancer, like, that's why I'm here every single month picking up these drugs, yeah. And she then proceeded to call me a big brave girl.
No.
Yeah, it was such a funny experience. Like, what a funny thing to say to
Big
someone. I'm
brave girl.
31. She was like, you're such a big brave girl.
She was panicking.
I think she did panic, because I think, obviously, she wasn't expecting...
Also, how weird for someone to be like, that's me, pointing at a poster, and then they're like, ugh.
I was just thanking her for putting it up, and then it was awkward because she obviously didn't know what the podcast or the poster was even about.
Yeah.
So now I had to be like, oh, yeah, it's me and my friend, like, we both had breast cancer. And then, yeah, she called me a big brave girl, and I just thought it was a really funny thing to say to someone who's 31 years old and had breast cancer.
I'm going to point it out next time I'm in there and see what she says to me.
Yeah, see if she calls you a big brave girl.
Yeah.
Because if she doesn't, then...
I should have done it when I was in there
You're
today.
not a big brave girl.
I thought about pointing it out when I was in there today, but I was a bit too preoccupied.
To what? Sorry, I just had to point out that then. That's kind of my update, that I'm a big brave girl.
Yeah.
You got any
I
updates?
was a big brave girl.
Oh.
I had my MRI on Monday.
Oh, nice. We're both big brave girls.
Yeah. Yeah, it was the first one I've had, actually, that I haven't, panicked in.
Yeah.
So the first one I reacted really badly to the contrast they give you.
Okay.
And I felt like I was just going to vomit, and I had to squeeze the thing. I don't know what it is.
The emergency button. Yeah.
And they got me out of there, sorted me out, and then went back in. There's the one I had last year, which was technically my first scan. I didn't feel sick, but I felt really dizzy, and spent like this, however long that last scan is, 8 minutes or something.
Yeah.
Like really panicking.
Is that
and,
the one where they actually put the... Yeah.
Yeah. And my breath was like really, really shallow. And you know, when you're trying to just control your panic, and I was trying to get myself through. But I didn't panic this time because I knew that it was going to make me feel that way. I had some Taylor Swift playing on the headphones.
Nice.
And it was all right. I cried after I got out.
Can you play your own music?
They have Spotify now.
Oh, they do they?
Yeah. With ads, but you know.
Oh, that's
you
quite
can barely
cool,
hear it when
though.
you're in there anyway.
Why don't you just stick on like a whatever radio station they have on?
But she was like, oh, what do you want to play? And I was like, she went, we've got Spotify. And I was like, oh, Taylor Swift then.
God, they've really gone up in the world.
Yeah, it's NHS. So yeah, I cried after I came out, and it was done. And my mum was like, are you okay? And I was like, oh, I just fucking hate the MRI. Like,
Are you claustrophobic?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you're lying there, and all you can see is that tiny little white thing. Like, there's nothing to see. It's just white.
Yeah, for people who have never had an MRI before, you basically go into this really long, thin tube. You're fully enclosed apart from your feet or your head, whichever one is poking out the other end.
And for your breast MRI, you're face down.
You're face down, and you go in feet first. So your head's at the the right end where the entrance is. But yeah, you're constantly just looking down, and all you can see is this like white, and it's really close to your face.
Yeah.
And like yeah, for other like bone scans or whatever, you'll face up. And like it's a small tube. Like you are really close to the tube, so it's incredibly claustrophobic.
And you can feel all of the rays of whatever it is,
vibrations
going through you. Like I can feel it in my hip bones.
It's loud in there as well. That's I think what I found the weirdest.
That's what makes it scary.
Yeah, it's because they say like, oh, here's some headphones, like it's going to be loud, but you don't know how loud until you go in there and you're like, fuck, this is loud.
Yeah, because they play music and you can't hear that. And then after I took the headphones off, the room felt stupidly quiet, even though the room isn't quiet because the machine's making a hum. But it's because you've just been in something so loud for 20 minutes.
And it makes noises. Do you want to hear my impression of the MRI
Go
machine?
on, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That was quite good,
That was
actually.
so
Yeah.
good. Yeah, so I've had that. I was a big brave girl. I should get my results in like 2 weeks.
Fingers
I
crossed.
asked for an appointment
You
and they
did.
just said, "Oh, we'll just give you a call."
I hate that because you're just in limbo.
Yeah. So last night I woke up 7 times thinking I've heard my phone, even though they're not going to call me overnight.
No.
But I guess that's my life for the next.
It's
2
annoying.
weeks.
Can you not call them and just you're like breast cancer nurses or whatever?
I'm going
and
to give
just
her
be
a
like,
week and then I'll be like,
I would, just
"Hi."
because it's worse when you're just like really in limbo. Like at least if you've got an appointment, you can kind of like try and hold your anxiety
yeah, you
until
can
like
forget
the day
about
before.
it. Yeah. Yeah, so that's happened.
Well done. I know you hate MRIs.
Slightly more exciting news. So I've been on the tamoxifen now for a month.
How's it going?
Definite changes.
Yeah.
My body doesn't ache anywhere near as much. It's still painful, but I'd say we've gone from like an 8 on the scale down to maybe like a 4, 5.
Ooh, that's not
as
bad.
like a baseline
It's like
daily.
halved.
Yeah. I've managed to come down on my pain relief
Mm-hmm.
as well, which is also great because I was taking 5 cocodamol tablets a day,
Oh my
which
God.
is a lot. I'm now down to 3, and I'm hopefully going to try and drop it again in
Yeah.
another couple of weeks. So that happened. But the more exciting thing that the tamoxifen and the vaginal moisturiser has
go.
allowed is Shane and I attempted to have sex.
Nice.
I don't
When you
know
say
what
attempted.
Yeah, so depends how much motion you deem as actually having sex. So we managed to get
like,
him.
sex is, oral. Like it doesn't have
Yeah.
to be penetration.
We
but-
had great foreplay,
great,
and we managed to get him inside me,
fantastic
which
news.
is like tenfold
Yeah.
compared to where we've been.
Was it painful? Like
Yeah, any movement after that point was painful, and actually at one point I was like, "Oh, your willy's too big."
I bet he loved it.
But yeah, so we've got somewhere which is further than
That's
we've got in the last
Like
9
actual
months.
major progress. It really is.
And even afterwards, he could tell that I was really quite anxious because then I felt like, oh, we got somewhere, but we didn't get far enough. Like I immediately started piling the pressure
But
onto
that doesn't
myself.
matter.
Yeah, and he was like, no,
like you're making small steps in that.
Yeah.
Thing. It was never gonna be like here's some vaginal moisturizer.
off you go.
Bam, you can have sex again.
Yeah, yeah, and like the sexual health lady said, it's at this point it's not about having sex again. It's about retraining my body that it's safe to have sex again, because so much of what's been happening is because my body's gone, this is gonna hurt. No, cancel, get out. We're not doing it.
Yeah.
So that's exciting. We did a little high five afterwards.
High five your attempt at
You gotta
sex.
celebrate the progress.
You have to celebrate the little wins.
You do.
I love it.
So yeah, so we'll try again soon.
Yeah.
Probably not right now because I'm pretty sure I've got a thrush.
Oh, so you have sex once, then you
Yeah,
get thrush. It's
yeah.
the worst.
So-
Being a woman is the worst.
Yeah, yay. But apparently the lady at the pharmacy said it's really common.
Winning.
So
What? Because
This
why?
is-
Because we're in the menopause.
Yeah.
And, right.
this is my life
I
now.
imagine if I ever have sex, I will also get thrush.
If you
and
ever
probably
have you will have sex again.
I'll probably get a UTI as well.
Oh.
I was actually speaking to my friend the other day about sex because obviously I've started seeing someone and it's early days, so like we're not going to have sex anytime soon. But she was kind of saying like, just take sex off the table. It doesn't
Yeah.
mean you can't do other stuff. Like, so, if you and Shane are kind of like, if you're feeling anxious about like having penetrative sex, just say like, we're not going to have sex today,
Yeah.
but we can do other stuff, and then you're
Yeah.
not anxious about it ever kind of reaching that point because it's you've taken it off the table and it's
Yeah.
under your terms.
And I think as well, like back in the day when we were having sex, there was that open dialogue.
Yeah.
And sometimes I'd be like, oh no, I don't really want to, but let's do this
Let's do something
instead.
else,
yeah.
yeah.
Whereas I think now, because the situation we found ourselves in,
There's more
it
pressure to
yeah,
be able to do it.
yeah, and it feels like you're offering up a consolation prize
Yeah.
as opposed to just like a normal negotiation that would have happened
Yeah.
before.
Yeah.
So we'll see. Progress has been made.
100%.
We'll keep trying. And
for
one
you.
day I'll be a porn star.
In your own home movie
Yeah.
that no one else gets to see.
Yeah.
Unless you start on, I mean, you know, you can start on
You could
OnlyFans,
start
like
on
no
OnlyFans,
judgments.
yeah.
That's something I've genuinely considered.
I wonder how
throughout my
easy it
life.
is.
I don't think it's very easy because I've watched. I'm really basing this off Olivia Attwood's Get Filthy Rich.
Oh, yeah.
Fantastic series, and she does one on OnlyFans, and basically to make loads of money on OnlyFans, like it's not like you put a video up or a picture and you start raking in the money.
Yeah.
You have to like it's through all the private conversations and like the pay-per-view, like people request certain things.
I don't have time
so you
for
have to
that.
have like you have to spend so much time like chatting to people, and so they feel like this personal connection, and they ask you for like, well, I'll give you like £1,000 if you take a picture of whatever. Like it's through that way you get all your money rather than just like your average subscriber. And I just can't be asked.
No, I can't be asked to do that.
No.
I mean, I can barely talk to Shane in a day.
I don't even want to.
And I like him.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. I've barely got time to do this.
Yeah.
Imagine if we had an OnlyFans. It's not we, as in like me and you can have an OnlyFans. Anyway. That's not really what we came to talk about today.
Talking of women empowerment, though,
Yeah.
do you want to tell us about what you've just done?
Oh, I wondered where you were going with that then. Yeah, so actually I have just this last Tuesday, I went to London to film a segment with ITN, which is the ITV news channel, with Copperfield. So me and three other people from Copperfield went, and it was me and another girl called Sophie. We were getting interviewed by Louise Minchin. Mm-hmm. And it was so crazy. And basically I was there to kind of share my story of breast cancer with kind of Copperfield, and they were doing the stats and what Copperfield do and stuff like that, and it was going to air on, well, by the time this episode goes out it will have aired on International Women's Day, which is the 8th of March. So if you didn't catch it when it came out on the 8th of March, go and watch it.
Shelley's famous now, so...
I'm famous now, I've been on TV. Also, I don't even know what channel it's going to be on. It might not even be on TV, it might be on the website, but... I've been filmed at the studio, and it was so cool, because you go to the green room, and they do your hair and makeup, and you go to the studio.
Oh, so it's like a full-on...
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
And there was, like... Louise had her chair, and then there was two other chairs kind of opposite her, like kind of, like you're on a panel show, like on a sofa, like the Graham Norton show.
Oh my God.
Obviously we weren't on the Graham Norton show, but there was a big camera that kind of moved around, and it was so hard not to look directly at the camera. There was definitely a couple of moments where I was like, took a sneaky little like glance.
Side-eyeing it.
When Sophie was talking, I was like, I don't know where to look or what to do, so I was kind of like looking at her most of the time, and then I was just like kind of looking around the studio, like, you're so conscious of what you're doing. But anyway, yeah, it was such an amazing experience, and I'm so grateful for like Copperfield for like kind of giving me all these opportunities. And
yeah, it's amazing.
it was just, it was such a great thing to do, and I'm so pleased it's going to come out on, well, it came out on International Women's Day, just because such a great movement to be a part of.
Yeah.
And, yeah.
So today we are going to be talking about life and how cancer changed our lives. So how did cancer change your life, Shelley?
In a massive, massive way. I mean, obviously cancer changes your life, but I feel like, and of this, obviously not to diminish anyone's experience who's had cancer when they're older, but I think when you're older, you're kind of settled in life, like you've got a job or a career,
more established.
you're a bit more established, whereas me in particular, I'd kind of just come out of uni. I just finished my masters. I had plans to go to Australia with the University of Western Australia to research sharks. I was planning on staying in Australia, and that wasn't solely because of cancer that didn't happen. Obviously COVID hit exactly as I was supposed to be going to Australia, so I couldn't go to Australia because of COVID, and then shortly after that I was diagnosed with cancer. And anyone who's had cancer or has cancer will know that trying to get insurance to move abroad is basically impossible.
Not even just insurance, anything. We had a new private healthcare supplier at work, and in a small print, pre-existing conditions aren't covered. And I was like, well, great, because nearly everything I suffer with is
Exactly.
because of my cancer.
And one of my friends actually moved to New Zealand recently, and she came home and she had to go to Scotland to do this kind of like health assessment to make sure she wasn't going to be a burden on their healthcare. And obviously she had to answer loads of questions like...
A burden.
Yeah, basically. And it kind of really put into perspective, like, wow, even if I mean, I'm sure there is ways, but even if I wanted to, moving abroad for me now is going to be so difficult because I've had cancer. And if not, impossible, because I'll be a massive burden on their healthcare, particularly if I wanted to go soon, because it's only just happened.
Yeah.
I'm still on medication. I'll still be on medication for the next 5 to 10 years, and no one wants to take that on, essentially. So, yeah, it's pretty difficult to do stuff like that. And
so did you have a backup plan? So because obviously
No.
Australia fell through more because of COVID originally, had you sat back and thought, oh, well, I'll just do this after COVID, I'll do this in the meantime? Or had you not even got that far before you were diagnosed?
I hadn't really got that far. I kind of had to move home from uni because I didn't have a job, because COVID just kind of... Obviously, that was my plan to still be in the UK. So I moved home, and then I got a job back at my old job, just doing maternity cover, whilst the old job I was doing before I went to uni to do my masters. Did maternity cover there, and I think I'd started in December, and it got to August, obviously, and then I was diagnosed with cancer. And I think in that time you kind of get like comfortable in a job, and oh, it's not so bad, and oh, once COVID's over I'll think about going abroad again. But because COVID was still like a very real thing, like when we were both diagnosed, I hadn't really considered like, what am I going to do after COVID's over, I guess, because it kind of, there didn't really seem like an end point. So I didn't have a plan B, because who can predict that COVID's going to happen, and then who can predict, shortly after you're going to get diagnosed with cancer.
So what is your master's in?
So I did my undergraduate in zoology, and then my master's was in wildlife health and conservation.
So it is still stuff that, if you wanted to pursue that, you can go and pursue that here without burdening someone else's health.
Yeah, I can. The difficulty is, I mean, I'm sure if I really, really tried really hard, I might be able to get a foot in the door somewhere. But the problem I have now is there are other people who have done their masters more recently. They've got way more experience, because I've been out of work for the last 2 years whilst I was going through cancer treatment. So I'm like way down the list of people who are kind of qualified to do wildlife health and conservation. And it's one of those industries that's super competitive, and you have to kind of know someone who's already in the industry to kind of get involved.
Is it something that you would even want to go back to, like now?
Yeah, I mean, never say never. Like, I'd love to be involved in animals in some way, but I really would love to be involved in kind of not hands-on way. Like, I don't
want to be mucking out a camel.
No. Also, I don't want to be... I don't love zoos. Like, anyway, we won't go into that. That's a whole different topic. But I wanted to go to... I love sharks. I love the ocean. I love scuba diving. I wanted to go to Australia. And I had, like, this amazing, like, thing set up where I was going to be doing research on sharks with remote underwater videos and doing, like, diving and stuff, and, like, basically shark research. And that's kind of the thing I would love to have gone into.
Yeah.
And no offence to the UK, but the wildlife that we have isn't as exciting. We have sharks off Cornwall and whatever, but it's kind of one of those things where, like, cancer has now changed everything.
Yeah.
And it's changed my priorities as well. So even if I could, and I probably could somehow, move abroad, I don't want to anymore.
Yeah.
Because I wouldn't want to be, like, can you imagine if I did go to Australia and I was diagnosed with cancer in Australia and I had nobody with me? I just can't imagine, like, something like that happening and not being around friends and family. Like, I rely on my support system so much now.
I don't think it would be as simple as then just hopping on a flight and coming home.
No.
Either.
No. So, yeah, it's massively derailed my plans, but it's changed, like, my priorities. And even if I could do those things, I don't think I would want to now, because I would want to be close to my family. And it feels so weird to say, because I was always the person that I didn't want to stay in the UK, I'm going to go abroad, I'm going to go travelling, I'm going to do this, I'm going to live in Australia, I'm going to live in Indonesia, and my life's going to be amazing. And not once did I ever think that I would just want to be living in Oxford, just around, like, in my parents' house still.
Yeah.
But that's completely changed now.
So what do you want to do now?
God knows.
No idea. We're just rolling with it.
We're just rolling with it.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously some people do know what they want to do, but does anybody really have, like, a concrete plan? Does anybody really, like, love what they do and do you love your job?
I mean, I do love my job, yeah.
Oh, shut up.
No, I do.
No. Okay, well, you've really
those...
just put my whole point out the window, so thanks for that, but okay.
I love my job because it plays so well to my strengths.
Yeah.
And because my employer has been incredibly supportive and continues to be supportive throughout this process, which makes it really easy. So I definitely fell out of love with my job while I was going through treatment and when I was going back to work, because it was so much harder.
Yeah.
But they've stuck with me and really helped me to see that I can adapt and I can still do these things. So I'm definitely falling back in love with it. And I think it's more the things I'm doing and the people I'm with than maybe necessarily the job.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't want to be anywhere else. That this is the 9 to 5 I want.
All right, fair enough.
So
okay, fine. We'll just move on from that. Pretend I never said it.
But it's different for everyone, isn't it?
Yeah. Like, I'm ambitious, sure. Like, I really want to. I'm really passionate about this, what we're doing right now.
Yeah.
I'm passionate about cancer, which is a weird thing to be passionate about, but, like, I do want to spend my life kind of, like, raising awareness now for breast cancer and being, like, a young voice for breast cancer. Like, I'd love for the podcast to, like, take off. I'd love if we could kind of sustain hint hint, if we could sustain our lives just by doing this podcast and just other stuff to, like, raise awareness for cancer. Like, if I could, I mean, no offense NHS, I actually do enjoy my job, but if I could quit that and focus solely on, like, raising awareness for breast cancer and doing stuff like this, that's the dream for me now.
Okay.
And it's funny because I feel like I've just made cancer my entire personality.
Yeah.
But, like...
So, like, Shane and I have this conversation a lot, actually, because when I was diagnosed, I was very much like, this is not taking over our lives. We're going to get through this and then we're moving on. And obviously now that's not the case, because now we are doing this and this takes up an awful lot of our time. And between that and everything we're dealing with daily, like, cancer is my life, but I think what I meant when I said that and what's happening now are two very different things. Like, this is a very positive outcome to cancer, whereas at the point I said it, I was like, I do not want our lives just to be hospitals and just being poorly and just this and just...
you don't want to be miserable because of cancer, basically.
And hopefully this is a really positive thing that's going to go out there and stay out in the world and live and breathe its own life into someone else who may need to listen to us chat crap.
Exactly. And it's one of those things, I mean, I struggled with it a lot when I was kind of first going through it, and I've had an awful lot of therapy, and we've spoken a lot about kind of, you know, I used to grieve a lot my past life and my past plans. Like, I used to get really upset about the fact that people are moving on and people are doing what they want to do and I'm not allowed to do that. But my mindset's just completely changed now, and it doesn't mean that I'll never be able to go abroad again. Like, I can still go on holidays, and I can still go travelling as such. I can still scuba dive. I can still...
Maybe you could combine the two and look at, like, cancer and sharks.
Actually, I googled it the other day because... there's this big thing about how sharks don't get cancer.
Yeah.
That's not true.
That's not true.
Sharks do get cancer. They're quite resistant to it, but...
So how do we become more sharkish?
Well, that's the thing.
Maybe
now,
that's
naked
what you can
mole
do.
rats, on the other hand, actually, I don't think they're incredibly resistant to cancer. It doesn't mean they don't ever get it, but they're very, very cancer resistant.
Okay.
But sharks whilst resistant, they do definitely get cancer. So I don't know where that kind of like myth came from, but I mean, yeah, I could do research on cancer in sharks, but I don't think I am going to do that. I think that's what I want to do. Don't
close the door just yet.
Okay.
Still got a long life ahead of you.
I want my life to be scuba diving with sharks. And that's it. No work.
And every time you pop up, just be like, don't forget breast cancer.
Yeah. My dream is to not work. So, does Shane get annoyed when you talk about cancer a lot?
I think so, yeah.
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 Has it?
Because I don't think for him it's had any of the positive that's come from it that I've had.
Not even because obviously you're kind of happier and you feel positive about it. Does that not make him feel positive about it? Or not really?
I don't think it goes that deep for him.
No.
I think he just hears cancer and just thinks, oh, for fuck's sake, here we go again. About like the whole thing.
Yeah.
Like, I think it must be so hard because he's had to look after me for so long, and you don't really, it sounds horrible, but you don't sign up to look after your partner in that way. You do on a very basic level, that if you get really sick, of course I'll look after you.
Yeah.
You don't expect that to happen so quickly into your relationship.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, definitely.
So I think
You've not even said your vows yet.
I know.
Sickness and in health.
Yeah. He's already fulfilled them. So I think he's just reached a point where he's just done with me needing looking after.
Yeah.
Which is completely valid, and that's fine, because he went from having perfectly healthy partner to one that was really sick overnight.
Yeah.
So he does get annoyed, but he does at least joke a little bit, and he gets involved with this sometimes every now and then, doesn't he? Like, he was very much at the beginning like, oh, I'm not having anything to do with it, this is like...
And then he was like literally throwing name suggestions at us left, right and centre.
Yeah.
So,
and he will sit
none of them we took, but...
And then he got really offended.
Yeah.
But he's always, like, whenever we've recorded at mine, he's always made sure that he's quiet or away, or when he sits and hears me editing, he'll sit and compliment or comment on some of the things we've said sometimes. So it's not that he's now just disinterested.
Yeah.
I think he is just ready for our life to move on.
Yeah.
And I guess that's what we're trying to do here, right?
Yeah.
I definitely know I feel so much happier and better about it since we've started doing this.
Yeah, 100%. I agree.
So it's definitely helping.
Yeah, definitely. It is like therapy.
Yeah.
Except we're not strangers. and it's free to an extent. I mean, we bought these new microphones. Yeah. But yeah, it doesn't cost, £50 a session. Although therapy is worth every penny, guys, just saying.
Definitely.
So how do you think it's changed your life? Because obviously me and you were in quite different stages of our lives, I guess.
So I think the biggest way it changed our lives was it kind of cemented the family that we are. So Shane has 2 wonderful children, and Shane and I decided we weren't going to have any more kids. He didn't want any more, which was completely fine.
You decided this before cancer?
Yeah, before cancer. So we had made that decision, not going to have any more children. I was completely okay with that.
Yeah.
I love the 2 that we've got as if they are my own. I've been in their lives since our youngest was 18 months old.
They've known nothing else.
Yeah,
really.
they know nothing else.
And you have watched them grow up.
Yeah, and the bond we've got is incredible. It never crosses my mind at any point that they aren't my children.
Yeah.
Which is a wonderful place to be. Even though we knew that we'd closed that door, it wasn't a conversation that was open. We weren't taking the greatest precautions not to have children as such. So I think we were always like, okay, so this is something we're not doing. Cool. Shane's talked about having a, what is it?
Vasectomy.
Completely lost the word then. Vasectomy. He hasn't yet, because there's the point now. I can't get pregnant now, so there's no point him going through that tiny little surgery.
Oh, God forbid. Oh, my God. You have to go through such a small surgery and then you have to stay at home for a couple of days.
Yeah.
I feel so
But
bad
it
for you.
definitely, I think it made it real that it is just the four of us and it's always going to be the four of us.
Yeah.
And
Did it kind of make you... Well, we'll talk a little bit about fertility because you do get the option to freeze your... I think we probably have mentioned it before, that you get the option to freeze your eggs, and you declined.
Yeah.
I declined as well. I've never wanted kids.
yeah.
But did it make that decision... Did you ever regret making that decision?
No, I've never regretted deciding not to take the fertility option.
Yeah.
Because honestly, for me, it is Shane and my family or nothing.
Yeah.
There isn't another option for me. If for whatever reason this family unit fails,
Yeah, I was kind of going to ask... I'm not saying you would ever break up,
Yeah.
but has it ever crossed your mind that, like, you're not going to be able to have kids? Well, you might not be able to have kids now if you break up. And
yeah, I think if there are plenty of other ways to have children,
Yeah, I agree.
obviously,
Yeah.
and I think given the card I have been dealt now,
Mm-hmm.
I would be more than happy if I was in a position where Shane and I were no longer together and I decided I did want children to look at adoption
Yeah.
or things like that. I know that you do not have to biologically have a child for a child to feel like your own.
Yeah.
And that's an amazingly unique position
Yeah.
to be in.
Yeah.
So I don't regret it, but there have definitely been moments where the enormity of fuck, I'm not going to have my own children
Yeah.
has...
Because obviously,
hit me.
like, you're very maternal. Like, you've always wanted to have kids.
Yeah.
So I guess that decision, that's kind of why I'm asking you if you regret it or not, because you have always wanted kids. You've always wanted to be
Yeah.
a mum. Whereas I have never really wanted kids. Like, it was quite an easy decision for me to make. But even still, I've never wanted kids, and I don't regret that decision whatsoever. I know I don't want kids. It's funny when the decision is kind of not yours anymore. Like, obviously we had the decision to freeze our eggs, but it's not a nice procedure. It's not a quick procedure, and it would just delay cancer
Everything,
treatment as
yeah.
well. So it obviously, did it feel weird? Like, obviously you kind of talked about it before. You don't want any more kids. You don't want your own kids. You're happy with the family unit you have. But having that decision, like, the door's closed,
Yeah.
basically.
I really struggled with that.
Yeah.
So, and this is not a funny story, but it is funny because it's slightly traumatic.
Oh, God.
So we have a friend who had a baby who unfortunately died. And we went to the funeral. And I was in treatment at this point. I was in chemotherapy. I'd had chemotherapy about 72 hours before.
Oh, God.
And we were stood at this baby's graveside, and everyone's upset. And I
Yeah.
realised I was bawling my eyes out. But then I realised
Oh, God.
I wasn't bawling my eyes out because a baby was dead. I was bawling my eyes out because I was never going to have a baby to die.
God.
How fucked up is that? Like, I don't want to have a baby to die, but just I'm never going to have children that are potentially going to die. I'm never going to have something that I birthed to grieve.
Yeah.
And that was and I took Shane to the side.
Oh, my God.
And I was like,
It's funny, but it's not. It's not funny.
I pulled him to the side. I was like, I'm not crying because the baby's dead. I'm crying because we're never going to have a baby.
You're, like, grieving this, like, imaginary child.
And he was
that's
like,
died.
but we weren't going to have children. And I was like, I know, but that was our choice. This isn't my
now
choice.
it's not my choice
now.
anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it was in that moment that I realised that
Well, it takes a baby's funeral to make you realise.
it's awful. I felt like the world's worst person.
But that's the annoying thing. Like, obviously, in that situation, like, you're upset about what you're upset about, and that's valid to have
Yeah.
these feelings. And you're also upset about the fact that now you think you're a terrible person because you're crying at this baby's funeral, but not about the baby dying.
Yeah, and it was a complete mind fuck of emotions.
I'm not surprised.
And I was sat there
I feel like I'm thinking a little bit, but like...
I sat there the rest of the time we were there, feeling, like when you're wearing a sign on your forehead that just tells everyone exactly. That's what I felt like. I felt like everybody could see that I was just an imposter, essentially, because that's what I felt like. I suddenly felt like I had no right to be there because
you weren't sad about the baby.
I wasn't sad about the right thing, and I was sad. I am sad that their baby died. Like, I wouldn't wish that on anybody. I think that was the first time it had ever been demonstrated in any way that, like, no, you're not having kids.
Yeah.
And it took me a really long time to then kind of accept that a decision had been made for me. And even though I had made the same decision, because I had made that decision, I could reopen that door.
Yeah, exactly.
But now the decision has been made for me. And medically we can undo the stuff for me to have children, but the threat to my life that comes with that
is not
something I'm prepared to
absolutely not
to take,
because I'm gonna risk my life for a potential life that doesn't exist yet.
Yeah, and I think we've said before, all the drugs can really damage your fertility because we've done nothing to protect our fertility in terms of taking eggs and things like that. We could reverse everything that's happening to us and just still be completely infertile
because of the toxicity of the chemotherapy.
So it's not to do that biologically. I potentially risk my own life. But to get to that point, there's so many hurdles and unknowns anyway.
Exactly.
Or I can adopt. And that's a completely valid way of
100%
having children. So like, there are thousands of children that need a home. And I know that if my family unit does break down, I don't ever think it will. I'm going to marry the man. Wouldn't be doing that if I was going to get divorced at any point. But I know that I can give a child a bloody good life. Because I'm doing that with the two we've got now. But I'm not solely responsible for that. There are two of us. But
you're a proven great mother.
Do you think this whole thing changed your relationship with your parents? Because you moved home, you did your entire treatment at home as an adult. So how did that change?
I mean, they treated me like an absolute princess.
The dream.
No, in all seriousness, I think it has changed. In a good way. I think we're definitely. I mean, we've always been a close-knit family anyway, but I think we are closer now. We spend more, like, genuinely more time together now. Whereas before it was like, we'd have dinner together and then I'd kind of go upstairs and we'd do our separate things. And we obviously still have independent lives. I'm not, like, joined to my parents at the hip. But we do more things, like, together as a family more. That includes, like, my sisters as well, because they only live around the corner. Like, we'll have, like, games nights together and craft nights, and we didn't do that before. I think we kind of cherish family moments a little bit more now, because you never know when you're not gonna have those family moments anymore. Like, there is, it's a reality that one day, like, I might not be there to join in the games nights. So I think it was kind of about like creating memories in a way. But I'm definitely, we talk a lot more. Like, we've never been a massive family that, like, communicates loads, but I'm definitely better at kind of telling my parents, like, how I'm feeling, and if I'm feeling a bit sad or anxious, or, like, if there's any way they can help me. Like, we're just closer, and we're more talkative to each other. Like, there's just more that kind of goes on now, like, as a family unit, which is really lovely.
Because I think I definitely grew up left home, went about being an adult. I'd call my mum maybe, like, once a week. Through the pandemic, I called her more because I was living alone. I was really fucking bored.
Company.
And then I think my mum went from talking to me daily during the pandemic, sometimes because I genuinely just needed someone to talk to. I couldn't bear my own thoughts anymore, not in a depressive, dark way, but when you're living in a house and you can't leave your house on your own, that's a lot. To then me becoming her child again. And I've always been really close with my mum. We've always had a really open dialogue. Not so much with my dad.
Right.
I do think it's made my dad and I weirdly closer.
Do you think?
And
Yeah.
I never thought my dad and I would ever really be close.
Yeah.
But he does check in on me now, and he does
Yeah.
send me like stupid little things, and he never used to do any of that before. Like even when I was struggling during the pandemic, it was my mum that dealt with all of that.
Yeah.
He did bring me an Easter egg once during the pandemic, which is quite nice. He left it at the end of my driveway.
Cute.
So yeah, I think it's made my relationships with my parents mature
Yes.
a lot quicker
Yeah.
than it would have. I think that would have happened anyway, but I definitely think
It's kind of
that-
expedited it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we're actually going to hear straight from the horse's mouth, aren't we? Next
Yeah.
week, we're actually talking to our parents.
Yeah.
In I want to say an emotional
Mine was
episode.
emotional, yeah.
Anyway, we don't want to give away any more surprises,
Yeah.
so you have to tune in next week to listen to that episode.
Yeah.
Oh, I do have one more thing.
Oh.
Actually, I'm so sorry. I have to
Don't
issue an apology statement to Imogen and Helen because a few episodes ago, I shouted them out and I said it was because Imogen basically kind of said, "Why have we not been mentioned?" That was wrong. It was Helen that said that. And I've spoken to them since, and Imogen was not happy that I got that wrong.
Very sorry,
So,
Imogen.
very sorry, Imogen. And I just want to say, love you both. Do you want to share your story? We'd love to hear from you, whether you've had cancer or not. Slide into our DMs on Instagram at onelump_or2.
Or email us at onelumportwopod@gmail.com.
See you next week.
Bye!